guys, it's your girl Fuzz. Welcome back to another Stardew Valley video. Today's a different video than normal. It is actually based on a question that I asked you guys on YouTube and on Reddit. What you believe is the most underrated or least used item in Stardew Valley and why? So today I'm going to go through your answers and your opinions. Let's get into it. So let's start off with the first comment, which is to do with the copper pan. This was mentioned as useless because once you get the copper pan, you may just use it for a day or two, but later on you might just store it away and never use it again. Unless you have the level 10 foraging perk, which is called Tracker, which can assist you in pointing into any of the shimmers in the water, then you most likely won't use the copper pan. So I do agree with this because I generally don't have the copper pan with me. So that's one that I definitely agree with. The next answer is daggers that are in the game. Daggers are great for doing short bursts of damage in a certain direction, but unfortunately, if you are getting swarmed by enemies, it really doesn't defend you. Generally, a sword is seen more useful due to its swing, and a hammer is more useful for a secondary attack, which does an AoE swing that does damage around your character. Because they only do attack in one direction, it's not really seen as useful either, so I agree with this as well. The next comment is the use of geocrushers. Now, the start of this comment says that geocrushers are an understatement, but I'm going to read the rest of this comment because it does say, one way it might be underestimated is that it is always one geode behind Clint. So if Clint opens up a prismatic shard from an Omni Geode in his shop, you can run back onto your farm and crack open an Omni Geode in the geocrusher and we'll always get a prismatic shard. I actually didn't know that, so that's actually really useful. I don't really see it as a disappointment. I see it more useful for the rest of the geodes. If I break open a geode and I get something that I actually need, I'm definitely going to go back to my farm and use the geocrusher for that same geode so I can get the same item from them, so keep that in mind. And for the last Reddit comment regarding the least used item are the trains in the game. Now I do agree with this comment because earlier game they may drop things like wood or geodes that you might find useful, but later on they just become a random event that you don't even pay attention to. Plus there is a chance that that train will have nothing on it for you. And even by the time you can react to this, you might have missed the train. So there's no reason to go out of your way just for 5 stone or 5 wood or even 5 geodes. If the drops were a little bit cooler to get like warp totems or even omni geodes, then the trains will be more useful, but late game there's no reason for them, so I agree with that. But now we go into the Reddit's underrated items. And the first item is the still small sword that you get in the mines. Now it's not much of an upgrade, but compared to the sword that you get from Marlin when you first enter into the mines, it is definitely more useful against slimes and other bugs earlier on. And then lastly, we have the comment on wheat. Now this comment was interesting to read and I'm going to read straight from the comment because it says, just plant a whole bunch of wheat in a plot you aren't using at the start of summer. It'll rain enough to cultivate it by winter. Especially if you get a meal, you can turn it into wheat flour and then bread, getting a 6 times return on investment. I found that really interesting, so I can really see how wheat is underrated. I generally don't put any wheat on my farm. If there is space on your farm and you want to grow something and you have some wheat seeds at the beginning of summer, definitely plant them, leave them there next to a scarecrow, and you should have enough rain days to get yourself wheat by the end of fall. And now we move on to the YouTube comments and we're going to look into the items you guys suggested are the least used items. Let's start off with the charcoal kiln. The charcoal kiln uses wood, 10 wood to be specific, to produce you 1 coal. Now you might have built a few of these and placed them on your farm, but I definitely agree with this because I do wish that they had more of a use, whether it is to give me more coal or maybe some other items, kind of like the recycling machine. Plus late game wood is very important and so is coal. So if I want to go get more wood, I would, but if I need coal, I'll instead just buy them from Clint, or I'll go through level 40 of the mines and reset the mines to kill as many dust sprites as I can. Next up, we have the comment of the golden scythe. Now you can use the golden scythe to kill enemies if you want to, but obviously it's not going to do much damage. It can deflect enemies as well, so that might be useful, but I can see how this might be an item that is least used. Generally, it would be smart to put your coop in your barn with a fence around it and have the grass inside so you don't have to use your scythe. Just let the animals go and eat the grass instead. The next comment is the comment about the telephone. I agree and disagree with this because the telephone generally doesn't have much use except for calling up stores to find out when their opening and closing hours are. But in the 1.5 update, if you kill 150 magma sprites for the Adventure Guild's monster eradication goal, you can get Marlin's telephone number, which allows allows you to call Mullen at any time to retrieve items you might have lost in the mines or the skull caverns. Then the last comment for this section is the hopper, which is a late game item that you can obtain on Ginger Island. Now I can see that hoppers can be useful because they do put things into a machine and prepare them, but if I don't pick up that finished product, the hopper won't continue making things for me. So then instead I'd rather just put whatever I was going to put in the hopper into my inventory, walk around and use the machines, and then just pick up the finished product anyway. Sure, the hopper might cut down this time by half, but I don't see this machine being useful late game. Maybe mid game, but once you get to Ginger Island, that's more like late game content, so I don't see the use of hoppers by then. And now we go into the underrated items that you guys suggested on YouTube. First up, and this was commented many times, is the use of the recycling machine. Generally, if you get a trash item, you might have the tendency of just trashing it away, but keep it in your inventory. I'm going to flash up an image from the Stardew Valley wiki to show you the use of trash items and what you will get if you put them in a recycling machine. I will admit, in my earlier gameplay of Stardew Valley, I never saw the use of recycling machines and I just threw my trash away. But once I saw the item return that you get from the trash in the recycling machine, I started to see its value way more earlier on. If you're doing a lot of fishing and you have a lot of crab pots and you're not using recycling machines, maybe consider using them. Next up, and I'm going to use two parts in this comment, but the first comment talks about cheese. I absolutely love using cheese, and I always tell my Twitch chat about using cheese, especially gold cheese, when going through Skull Cavern. It is so easy to make, so easy to produce, and the refund of your health and energy is amazing. But the next comment is the deconstructor machine. Now the deconstructor will salvage some items from something that you put in there. The most valuable items from that item that you put in the deconstructor will be taken out and everything else will be trashed away. My chat actually helped me out with this, but I would trade a lot of jade in for staircases. It was actually suggested to put the staircase into the deconstructor to get myself some stone. Every staircase was giving me back 99 stone. So that's definitely a useful tip if you want to use your jades to trade yourself 99 stone. Next up is the mention of that little cave that is on your farm, whether you chose mushrooms or if you chose fruit bats. Whichever one you chose, it's definitely a good idea to check them out and utilize the items in there. If you chose mushrooms, why not pick up the items and either use them to refill your energy and health or save them up so you can make some life elixirs. The same can happen with the fruits as well. Then we've got the mention of explosive ammo. Now I somewhat agree with this. If you have a slingshot with explosive ammo on there, it is definitely useful if you go through the Skull Cavern and you find yourself a lot of stones or geodes right next to some walls or some enemies. Explosive ammo only explodes when it's on impact against an enemy or a wall. Having explosive ammo means you could be using your slingshot continuously. The only downfall as to why I don't use slingshots, for example, is that it does need to impact something. So you'll either have to make sure that there's a wall there, or if there's a flying serpent that is coming at you, maybe wiggle him in a certain way so that you can use the explosive ammo on him so he could explode a certain geode for you. And next up, we've got 3 types of edibles that are seen as underrated. The first mention is the use of sashimi. Sashimi is a recipe that you get from Linus at just 3 hearts, and it requires any one fish to craft. If you've got plenty of fish and you have no use for them other than keeping them in the chest, why not make some sashimi if you're finding yourself getting low on health and energy in the mines or Skull Cavern? Next up, and this is a Ginger Island specific item, but that is magma caps. Magma caps are found in the volcanoes on Ginger Island, and I will mention something in this comment which says the best is when you have the botanist profession, because then a single iridium mushroom gives you 205 health and 455 energy. For a single mushroom to be doing that, that is absolutely amazing, so I definitely agree with using that as well. Then lastly, there's the mention of cactus fruit. Cactus fruit can be foraged either through the Calico Desert or you can buy the seeds each for 150 gold at the Oasis. What's really cool about cactus fruit is every 3 days it regrows. This comment mentions that they plant a row of 10 of them in their greenhouse with some fertilizer and kept the gold ones to eat for food. It's a really smart comment and I definitely agree with this, even though I do have a tendency to put ancient fruit in my greenhouse. If you want to use one sprinkler space for some cactus fruit, it might give you some better health and energy return if you're in need of it. And that's every comment that I've gotten from the YouTube and from Reddit, so guys, thank you so much for contributing to this. If you liked today's video, definitely leave a like, and if you want to see more Stardew Valley content, why not consider subscribing? I hope to see you next time, guys. Take care of yourselves.